He once broke my wrist, but what finally broke him was laundry detergent. For years I lived in fear of his temper, his lies, his sudden explosions. Then one quiet afternoon, at a laundromat, I made a small choice, a harmless choice, and for the next 7 days, he couldn't stop scratching. If you believe karma sometimes arrives in small, unexpected ways, hit like, subscribe, and stay till the end, because today's revenge story isn't loud. It isn't dramatic, but it is deeply satisfying. My name is Lena. I'm 39 now. This happened when I was married to my second husband, Victor. We lived in a cramped apartment on the edge of Cleveland. From the outside, we looked ordinary. Inside, it was survival. Victor had rules, endless rules. How food should be cooked, how towels should be folded, what tone of voice was acceptable, what time lights had to go off, and most importantly, how laundry had to be done. He had sensitive skin. Or, at least, that's what he told everyone. Only fragrance-free detergent. No dyes. No harsh chemicals. He would check labels like a detective searching for clues. And if something felt wrong, there would be consequences. I still remember the first time he shoved me into a doorframe. The sharp crack in my arm. The confusion. The shame of telling coworkers I slipped on wet tiles. After that, I learned to move carefully. Speak softly. Exist quietly. Laundry became one of my assigned duties. Every Saturday morning. Coin laundry down the street. Plastic basket digging into my fingers. The smell of steam and spinning metal drums. Women chatting about normal lives. While I calculated how to avoid angering a man who claimed to love me. Then one week, everything shifted. Not dramatically. Just a tiny fracture in routine. The laundromat vending machine had run out of our usual detergent. The shelves were empty. My hands trembled slightly. If I went home without clean clothes, he'd rage. If I bought something different, he might notice. I stood there staring at a bright orange box. Generic powder detergent. Cheap. Harsh. Definitely not approved. For the first time in years, a rebellious thought whispered inside my mind. What if I just used it? What if he felt discomfort for once? What if control slipped even a little? My heart pounded like I was planning a crime. I poured the powder into the washer. Watched foam bloom like silent fireworks. Clothes tumbled. Minutes stretched. Part of me hoped he wouldn't react. Another part hoped he would. That evening, he sat on the couch watching television. At first, nothing happened. Then he scratched his arm. Then his neck. Then both hands started moving restlessly across his skin. I kept my expression neutral. Inside my chest, something unfamiliar grew. Not fear. Not guilt. Power. He muttered under his breath. Did you change something? My pulse spiked. This was the moment. I walked calmly to the laundry shelf, picked up the usual fragrance-free bottle, held it up like evidence. Same as always. He frowned, confused, suspicious, but he said nothing more. Over the next week, the itching became relentless. He paced, snapped at shadows, applied creams, changed shirts repeatedly. At night, I heard sheets rustling as he scratched in frustration. For once, he was the one uncomfortable in his own home. For once, control had slipped out of his hands. One evening, he finally exploded. What did you do? His voice cracked with anger and desperation. I shrugged lightly. Maybe you should start doing your own laundry. Silence filled the room. Heavy. Electric. He stared at me like he was seeing a stranger. In that moment, I realized something profound. His power had always depended on my obedience. And obedience is a choice. Not long after that, I left. Packed my things quietly. Filed reports. Started therapy. Started breathing again. Years later, I am safe. Happily remarried. Living a life that once felt impossible. But sometimes, I still think about that week. About how something as ordinary as detergent became a turning point. Not because it hurt him badly, but because it reminded me I still had agency, even in the smallest decisions. If this story moved you or reminded you that small acts can lead to big freedom, hit like and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, what's the quietest but most satisfying karma you've ever witnessed? Because justice doesn't always shout. Sometimes it simply itches,